Yes, another 2 to 3 minutes more. That's where we will begin with our first keynote address. So, requesting everyone to please join us in and take a seat so that we do not delay on the agenda. Well, our speakers are right here waiting to join us on stage. So, requesting everyone to please join us in. And yes, we do promise that you all will have enough time for networking and taking those conversations forward. But in the meantime, let us kickstart with our discussions here on stage. So, requesting everyone, you all can join us in and take a seat. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to our second edition of INFOCOM Mumbai 2025. On that note, once again, thanking our partners for their indelible support for this edition. Our cybersecurity partner, 63SAT Cybertech, CXO session partner, Tata Communications, session partner, vServe Info Systems, and supported by CXO Cyways. Having said that, I believe we had an amazing lunch break, and post that amazing and a very insightful workshop, it's now time we kickstart with the opening keynote address for the day. But before we do that, are we all reset and recharged? Can we have those responses even louder because we have a power packed session throughout? So, are we all reset and recharged to resume? Okay, so with that, thank you for that. With that, it's now time we begin with the opening keynote address. Ladies and gentlemen, as we all know that in an era where technology is advancing at an unprecedented pace, building a business that stands the test of time requires a keen understanding and an integration of innovation and future technologies. Well, our opening keynote right here will focus on navigating tomorrow, building a future forward business through innovation right from a CXO leader's playbook. And joining us on stage, please put your hands together, everyone, for our keynote speaker, Dr. Sudeendra Koushik, Professor of Practice, Rema University, Bangalore, and Chief Innovator and Co-founder, Prasu. Come on, let's put our hands together as he steps forward. Well, a very warm welcome. Over to you.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's a privilege to be here. I have been with one of the other Infocoms in Kolkata, and it was great working and meeting so many smart people. So it's always a challenge to meet smart people, and now I have a double challenge meeting smart people after lunch. So, so it's going to be very. I think it's by design they put me in this spot, but let me see how I can do this. Like I said, it's a pleasure to be on this floor because two things excited me. When Shubhama invited me, innovation is something that I have been practicing as my profession for almost 32 years now. My PhD is also in innovation. So very quickly, does this work? Okay, while they figure out, let me say what I do for my day job is, like I said, I consult with companies on innovation, and I'll tell you in a minute what I exactly do with them. I also have been by interest associated with academia for almost 15 years through IEEE and other things. So I'm also elected as the president of IEEE TEMS, which might be interesting to many of you. I'm pretty sure. We can discuss over networking how the Technology and Engineering Management Society could help in your profession that you are in. I also teach in some universities like NID in Ahmedabad, in Bangalore, etc., but also in some universities abroad for the innovation in different domains. I'm an engineer. I have my MBA in marketing. I have my specialization in strategy from IIM Kozhikode on strategic management just by interest. I ended up doing my PhD in innovation, like I said. It was a chance encounter, but the story for an evening over a drink or so. I also have a passion to share what I do. So one of my TEDx talk is on the big red ribbon behind me is on YouTube. If you ever feel bored and have 15-ish minutes, you can have a look. Written some books around this as a syllabus for many of the colleges. At the same time, I work with, like I said, very smart people like you. Some of the important companies that I work with are here. What do I do exactly with them is basically a couple of things. I help develop what I call the innovation skills and capacity. During my last 15 years, I realized there's a lot of companies, especially tech centers in India, who would like to innovate, but at the same time, they don't have the skill set, not the potential, but the skill set, which is also listed in the World Bank report as well. Some companies also request me to help them develop patents, which depends on what they want to do. But also there is something which in between tying these two is the innovation culture. There is a lot of things that should happen for innovation to thrive. We will discuss this in the next 30-35 minutes or so. So I have had a lot of sessions in the last decade or so on this topic. So one of the things interesting is the problems that we try to figure out in an organization that they should be solving rather than they could be solving. So it will all come today when we discuss a lot of this stuff. I have some strange hobbies. I draw cartoons. So after my session, if I'm quietly seeing someone, be sure you're being targeted. So, and I will leave the paper there without anything, so you can pick it up. But also I end up doing something which is almost out of my skin, I should say. Acting in movies and cinema. I come from Bangalore, so it's Kannada stuff. And one thing is guaranteed is they're all flops. So I almost guarantee the producers that if you take me, I can make sure it doesn't run more than few days or few weeks. Why do I do that? Because in innovation, you need to have something uncertain which you're not comfortable with throughout the journey of innovation. By design, innovation is something new, which means it has not been done before. So that means you should be able to handle what you don't know or what others don't know too well continuously, right? So that helps me do that because it's very intimidating when you're on a set. What you naturally do, you should do almost the opposite. I usually get cop roles, maybe because of the way I look or whatever. But one of the last movies I got was a tea shop owner role. So I was very depressed that day. I told my wife, I think it's a degrade from 3-star to on my shoulder to a tea vendor. She said, maybe you can become a prime minister someday. I said, okay, that's a good idea. So let me start. So this is very important to understand, to calibrate, just to make sure that we are all in the process of solving some problems for a profit. I think I was in a session yesterday with another company in Bangalore. They're into retail. So I was telling the same thing to them, that is customers happy customers important or your profits important? And there was a whole lot of discussion, and usually that happens because in the end, the purpose for what are we doing and how we are doing should be understood. What is it that we want? We want profits, of course, ethically with happy customers. So this is the premise on the next 30 minutes discussion that we're going to have. So how does it work? No, it doesn't work. Okay. It is running a business, as most of you will be very surely knowing, is like walking up an escalator that is coming down. So there are a couple of scenarios. One scenario is when you're coming down and you're walking up at the speed of the elevator, you're in the same place. Nothing seems to change. Nothing much seems to happen. Nothing going places. You're not in the news. So it kind of stands still kind of an approach. You're just making it. It's also called coasting. You're just using your momentum of your past success to run. The second scenario is you are walking faster than the escalator. So you get somewhere, you get ahead of competition, you get ahead of changes, etc. Now the third scenario is you're walking slower than the escalator. Of course, we all can imagine that we'll be thrown out of the escalator. Now that is a scenario we none of us would like to be in, right? So if you see the global macro risks, there are several risks that we are dealing with today, but let's say the macro global level risk. The first one is about how environment threats and social kind of polarization, societal polarization is happening in the society. Two of the major global trends. After that, you see something called inequalities in that as a trend. Now, why this is important is our businesses somehow will be intersecting with these trends. And the fourth one is and I also call the disinformation, right? Wrong information or wrongly put out information. And last but not least, we all will be very aware is the adverse outcomes of AI. AI is another revolution that's happening. A lot of revolutions have happened, but this one is a difficult one for most of us to handle as yet. So under this global macro risk, there are a lot of businesses that we do, just like the SDGs, which will touch one or more of these things, or rather they will touch one or more of our businesses that we are into. So what does this mean? The challenge here will be basically to understand the rate of change. I can't, I always get excited when they see this quote from Jack Welch. If the rate of change on the outside your organization, outside yourself, is more than the rate of change inside, the end is near. I think this sums up everything that you call strategy in one quote. So if you're not, first of all, you have to be aware that there is a change. Second, that this change is relevant to you, because not every change is going to be as effective as another change. And the third one is adapt. So this all three A's will have to be dealt with when you do this. And this is the premise why innovation is a strategy to manage this change. How do you cope with these changes? Different organizations have different DNAs, have different cultures. So different companies, different set of priorities they have will be able to dictate how they respond to these changes as well. Now, good companies, no, I would say great companies, 260,000 patents or so put together. I mean, I was at Philips. I used to work for Philips in Singapore and the Netherlands, and we had like 250,000 patents. How can such a company disappear in a rather fast pace with 95, 96% of market share? And the key word I want you to note is that we didn't do anything wrong. Now, that doesn't qualify to anything to give you success. So you did not do something right. Now, that is where the problem starts. What is right? Because if with all that collective wisdom, if such a company says we did not know what we did wrong, I think they did not do something right, and that's where innovation comes in as well. So the focus for me has been like this. I have this bad habit of every now and then Googling once or twice a year some keywords. So just go to Google, put that keyword, hit enter, and it will show you how many hits, right? So I've been tracking that. When I look at innovation, it's been close to 1.2 billion about a few years ago, and last year it was 3.9, so it was going up, and now it's much lesser. It has come down. So when I key in the word for innovator, I don't know if it's the battery or me. If I key in innovator, you will get very different kinds of results. It's an order of magnitude less. Now this tells me something. Google search tells me something, that what is the change going on outside? What are people looking at? What is more important to people? You get these top 10 searches of the day, etc., right? Something like that. So that means innovation is something creative output, and it is centered around human beings, and that is the one which has less priority compared to a process called innovation. So I stretched my imagination a little bit more. I hit on AI as a keyword. I got this. Surprises? Not really. Okay. Then I do something else. Innovation. I get this. This was 1 month ago. This was different innovation search day than the previous slide. Okay. Order of magnitude different. Then I search something else called engineer. I get much lesser compared to AI, but yeah, okay. Then totally esoteric word, happy. Why did I check happy? I guess you all know the story about John Lennon, where the school kids were given an activity. The teacher asked the kids, given a sheet of paper, write on this piece of paper, what do you want to be when you grow up? That was the activity. So they all wrote whatever they want, rocket scientist, lawyer, etc. And this kid also wrote something, and everybody has to go to the teacher's side and then open the sheet and read. So teacher opened everything, oh, lawyer, okay, good, oh, this. Then this guy's turn came. She opened and said, happy. She said, it was the question, you did not understand the question, she told him. And he said, a 6-year-old kid to the teacher, you didn't understand the answer. Because the whole purpose of life is to be happy. And all these things are supposed to make you happy. So, do you have the ticker? Somebody took away the ticker. No, I would love to do that. Yeah. So, now you see, if it is a metric, what is more important? To be happy or to have AI? These are some strange things that's what I'm saying. What is happening is not important. Being aware of what's happening is more important. And I think this is where the whole concept of where we are heading with these kind of things is kind of skewing our priorities, because either it's modulating what we are doing, it's kind of changing what we are supposed to do, or maybe even changing the course of where we were actually doing some things, right? So, what is, they're giving me an impression that I am pressing, but is this a problem or is this a glitch? Because I like to use my flow because it depends how they do. So, research converts money into knowledge, okay? Often people have this misinformation between research and innovation. Dr. Nicholson from 3M said it very nicely. Innovation converts that knowledge back into money. Think like this. If a funded project of scientists gave you a new information, new compiler, new software, new material, new way of doing things, okay? Edison's time, the new information was passing electricity through a thin filament will give you light because it gets red hot. But you cannot give everybody a wire if you want light. So you make a bulb out of it. That's what makes it a business. That's what makes it an innovation as such. Now, how is it connected to business in this process is research to innovation, innovation to business, that grows that money. Now that is where actually we are all in play. Remember the first slide, business is about making money. But there is an important fact that none of them can exist without the other two. Each of the things in this slide needs the other two. Also there is another link to back to this, make it a closed loop, which is basically how much of your sales do you invest back into your R&I. Now this is super important because we know there is a change like we saw. We know we need to adapt because we know it is relevant, but where that new solution comes from, the new innovation comes from, that bag of money is very important. As you all know, it could be 4%, it could be 8%, it could be 15% depending on the industry as such. So what is innovation? It's making something new. That's the easy part. But making something useful, that's the hard part. Why is it hard? Because what I make, I will of course think it is useful, but I don't pay myself. So those who buy my product, those who pay for my product should find it useful, and hence it's very contextual. Not everybody is your customer. Many of us know this already, but many of us have not realized this already, that there are 42 kinds of shampoos in a good supermarket, but everybody does not buy every shampoo over every period of time. So somebody likes something, okay? Now with this context, how does it work is, just because you are new or just because it is different, you don't become an innovation. On a lighter side, one of the uses of fork is to scratch your back, and the third one doesn't do that also properly because it doesn't know where exactly it's going to make contact with your thing. So just because you say, oh, we have a very different product, that doesn't mean anything. Oh, our service is very new, doesn't make any difference. How does it work? So can anybody quickly tell me in 10 seconds, what do you see when you see this picture? What is the useful thing about this picture? I took this picture. It's not on Google yet. Okay. Is there anything abnormal about this picture, if any? Okay. Okay. Where is the copper? Outside. Where should it be? Inside. Many of the times we have an ability to do something because it is to be done, without much thought about what exactly is going on. So utility is key in the future of any innovation that we do, because utility is contextual. That means you should know for whom and how will they use it, why will they buy it, and hence it becomes a opportunity. Every business, literally every business, and I'll give some examples, needs to make money, and they need innovation to make money, and that's how the new products come in. It could be whatever the business they are in. It could be the products, it could be services, it could be even patents, licensing, just licensing. They never make a product, they never make a service. Could also be a innovation for them. How does it work then? Basically, it's something that they have to think as what will affect their business. Is it the top line or is it the bottom line? Of course, top line means it will help you get more revenue. Okay. Bottom line is it will reduce costs. For example, if it's a car, you can think of, okay, I make a new model with 2 sunroofs. So I can show this and get more money. So that means it is also something what the customer can see when you make an innovation for the top line impact, or something the company can see when you make the bottom line impact. So in the car, you can make a feature, show it to the customer, or you can say I introduce robotic painting, which will reduce wastage of paint in my car factory, but the customer will not pay for it, right? So the difference is basically how you pitch to what the customer wants. Now, where will this come from? Fine, okay, we all understood we need innovation and we need to plan this for our future. Now, where does this come from basically? Literally any function of your organization, because there is a big myth about it. Oh, it only has to be the R&D department, the tech guys have to sum up with. I do programs on innovation and development of innovation with even HR. The least of the people given credits to come up with a innovation. Actually, why this is important is, in the coming slides we will see, all of these people know their function very well. So if their function has to improve, they can come up with something new in their profession, in their domain, in their way of working. Quick examples, okay? If you push medical diagnosis further, if you give 100 scans to doctors to manually scan oncology patients' scans, manual scanning efficiency is about 80%. So out of 100 scans, they get 80 right. Okay? If you put in AI and a learning model to learn how to diagnose, it can go up to 99.6%. So the efficiency improvement of accuracy improvement is significant. Okay? It's a very high-tech application in a medical domain. From a high-tech to very simple tech. Slip-on shoes. People have all sorts of issues with bending. Maybe their hands are full. You can think, oh, there is no high-tech in this, there is no AI in this, there is no hardware in this, there is no software in this. Doesn't matter. There is something that there is going to be an impact in this. Or marketing, banking. Marry now, pay later. What an innovative way to sell your loans to people, to borrow money from each other, right? It could also be something even more significant, but it's a cardboard. 2018 patent, a cardboard folded in a certain way so that you can carry pizzas and blah, blah, blah. Why would somebody get $1.5 million for this? $1.5 million was the licensing fee. It's a cardboard, you can argue. But this helped a lot of companies to run their pizza business sustainably, because if you remember, end of last decade, there was a push to become sustainable business, including packaging. So somebody thought about that, and then that became an innovation as well. Also, you can think in a very simple way. I don't know, in this part of the world, in our part of the world, we have this to protect from the evil eye. So I got this picture the other day when I was walking around. I showed this to someone and they said there is a full-length version of this lady as well. So I'm yet to find that version as well. The only concept I want to think is, first of all, innovation need not be something huge, serious stuff all the time. It should be something that you do to enjoy, because you don't know how many of them will be actually successful. At the same time, you should also understand that creative problem solving, according to our Nobel Prize winner, the same thing. You see the same thing. Look at today's thing. Data. Everybody gets data. If you just pay money, you get the same report that McKinsey gives me is given to you. But what is different is how do you see it differently. Okay? Creative problem solving is looking at the same thing as everyone else, but thinking something different. I think that's where the situation comes, is to understand it doesn't mean you have to put a lot of effort and hence you will get a lot of impact. There is no correlation. Okay, it's not a linearly correlated thing. You can have a lot of effort to create an innovation which can be a failure. You can put a small effort, it can be a huge success. Okay, it does has no correlation between the effort to innovate and the impact to connect. It also goes back to connect to the same point that money is not a factor. Microsoft spends 4 to 5 times more than Apple, and Apple is ranked as number one in innovation. That's not because of money spent, right? It should have been the other way around. That's because what do you do with the money that you spend? So in that context, an analysis was done on patents. Very, very interesting information came out. 2 plus 3% of all the patents, only 5% were pioneering new generation stuff. 95% were just significant improvements or routine solutions. Just a side question to make you realize the value of how many patents you can have. I have about 49, but you can also have 500. That's not the problem. The point is, how many patents could be there? How to kill a rat? How to kill a rat? 108 patents. That means there are 108 different ways to kill a rat. An iPhone 6 had 20,000 patents. A BlackBerry 9.3 series, 10,000 patents. They're not coming from Apple and BlackBerry, by the way. But the whole point is there is enough and more opportunities to come up with innovation in the future. So when you look at your own organization, where does this come from? On the x-axis is the innovation capacity of your organization. How many innovators does your organization actually have? Okay, and on the y-axis is what kind of value your organization, your unit, your business, your team is adding. So generally, in most of the tech centers or the GCC concept of India, we have pockets of brilliance. There are 4 or 5 people already for every 100 people who do this, and they create a lot of value for the organization. But if you want to be the organization of the future, what you need is a value-centric approach. You have to be a value center, not just a cost-efficient center. To do that, it will not just happen because you want it. You need to do 2 things. Organization-wide, the 4 people should be 4% become 96%. And then value multiplication happens. Now, this is not going to happen because you want it to happen. Please, I'm repeating myself because this is so important that you can have it on your vision, mission, strategy everywhere, but it doesn't come to execution, it does not happen. So what should we do to do this is basically looking at, if we do this, okay, just to tempt you a little bit, how it looks like. If you take a 1,000 people organization, okay, if 10% of them are innovators, you get 100 innovators in the organization. Now, if these 100 innovators come up with 1 innovation per year, at the success rate of 1%, you get 1 innovation for a 1,000 people organization in 1 year. Okay? If you reskill them, if you kind of reskill them and say, I will make them complement with their domain skills with innovation skills, then suddenly, if 50% of them become, not 100%, even say 50% of them become, you get 5. You have not added 1 single person to your team. You're not adding a resource to get innovation. You're adding skills to get innovation. Now, this is a very conservative number, and I'm going to say why it is conservative. During Thomas Alva Edison time, he used to ask 1 innovation per month from his team. Okay? They had hardly any resources and tools that we have today. And they used to do that every 6 months, 1 major innovation. So I think when you hire best of people, this is an under ask. Okay? So what happens with this is, it's a top-driven approach. You know, people at the top have to come up with the intention to have this, and people at the bottom will be able to execute. Now, this is where the difference comes from will versus skill. And the goals that you set will not become skills. Okay? The goals that you set are definitely needing some skills. It is like saying, I run a South Indian restaurant. From tomorrow, my customers are asking Chinese food. So can I make Chinese food? I can, but not tomorrow, because I need to skill my people to learn how to make Chinese food. Now, this is where the future and the gaps that you want to look at. Should we focus on technology? Should we focus on people? Okay. Now, we will look at that in a context of what the organization can do and what the organization should do. Now, this difference is not obvious. This difference is very, very thin line separating the two, because many a times I see fantastic organizations doing what they can, not what they should. I think this is where the problem starts and problem ends in the organization as a mediocre. Let me share one favorite example of mine. Couple of people in the audience might have heard this, bear with me. This changed my outlook on why technology and why not technology, or how much technology to believe. So I was vice president in my previous company about 10 years ago, like AI now. IoT was at its peak. So I was asked to come up with IoT product for home appliance. My gut feel told me that it's overdone. IoT at home. I said, then you accept you cannot do. No, VP, head of innovation, how can I accept? My ego did not allow. So I said, okay, let me do something. I came up with an induction cooktop which you can control by a smartphone. Okay. Now, the point here is I made a prototype. I took it to my home, which my mother. Now, that was a turning point of my day. I'm sharing with you for that reason. So that day, I stood at the dining table. She was to my right side. The wall here, socket here. So I opened the. You all know how a prototype box looks like. A lot of thermocol, a lot of junk. She was waiting patiently and bearing all this because I am her son, not I was VP innovation. Then I plugged in the induction cooktop. Nothing happened. Then I was taking out my phone, playing with it, opening some app and everything. Finally, I pressed something and one LED switched on the induction cooktop. So the innovator in me was delighted. I said, yes. So I looked at my mother and she was looking everywhere except me. So I said, look. He said, what? It switched on. She said, so what? She said, so what? He said, what do you mean? You could have switched on long ago. You are standing in front of this for almost 2 minutes and you have switched it on now and you're feeling great about it. No more ego. How do I defend a PhD guy with a 8th standard person? So then I said, I was traveling to China 2 days later. So I told her I can switch on from China. Then she asked, why? Why would you do that? The whole idea was I was getting defeated time and again for a simple reason that I had nothing to show which was important for her. So technology was latest, but she has no interest and response. So that turned my approach to technology and focus it on more benefits of technology. So then I took it as a challenge. So 6 months later, I said, I have to get even with her. So otherwise score is 1-0. It doesn't look good. So all the Indian problems that we have with pressure cooker, I try to take. Some of us have this problem in India that when the lady of the house says, switch off the pressure cooker after 5 whistles. And the man has no clue which is the 5th whistle, right? So, because all whistles sounds the same. And during IPL season or something, it gets worse. So, we made this, I have a patent on this with Prestige. This pressure cooker, this induction cooktop, if you peak the pressure cooker and you set the value of the whistle 1 to 15, it will switch off after that many whistles. Why I'm telling you this, she till now uses it. The simple reason is because of this difference. How do you separate innovation versus technology versus benefits of technology? Now, this is something that all of us have to keep in mind, more so going into the future, because there are all sorts of technologies that are coming in. But all sorts of technology has zero value in innovation if it doesn't make sense that you can make something useful out of it, which people will buy. Remember, profit is related to buying. Buying is related to innovation's utility. That's what we are expected to. If a lot of technologies have come in and gone, or some are still there, the expected impact of AI is supposed to be 50%. 50% is a lot, even if they are saying it's a conservative estimate. Now, where does this come from? Where does this lead to? Is a kind of a co-innovation with human beings. Okay? The co-innovation with human beings is when you use generative AI and we as innovators combine in the future, we may get a complementary innovative space where we kind of complement each other. We don't take away everything and we don't give everything into the hands of AI as well. So innovation will have 3 aspects. One is finding and crunching information to get the white spots, the white spaces. The second thing is all sorts of data that we'll get, we need to crunch. And the third play area for AI and innovation will be speed. More than accuracy, speed will going to be a huge play because it can do what we do in 6 months in perhaps 4 to 6 weeks. Okay. Now, this is where what I call it can become a decision support system. Just like Google. When we want to go from here to airport, if you put the Google Maps, it will not direct you based on a command. It will say these are the options available. You make a decision. So it's a decision support system. Imagine similar for innovation as well. So to do this, you need something called contextual awareness. The data, we don't have an advantage because everybody gets the same data. Awareness is depending on your business, your customer, your skill set, your experience, your exposure. Now, this little clip, can you check if the audio is there? Will tell you why context is so important. The guy who walked away is proud, actually. He has no clue what he has done. The guy on the screen's life was very simple just 5 seconds ago. The whole point here is context is not given to you. Context is created by you. Context is something that you visualize, you embark. And the whole point is, can we help people develop these skills? The answer is yes, but do you want to is the question. Of course we can. It's just like driving. Most of us, none of us were born with the skill of driving, but we learnt it, right? So the whole context in this innovation will become will versus skill, and they are not the same thing. Just because you have a will, you will not have the skill. Okay, I might want to sing, but it will remain my birthright because I can only sing when I'm in the bathroom. But the skill to sing is totally something else which you need to develop. So where does this come from? Like I said, in all functions they have the domain knowledge, right? But innovation skills is what you got to add. When you have this combination, is very different. There is only something called idea on the right side. There is no innovation without the left side. Because innovation is also about how do you make it a connection to the business. And this is my whole consulting piece, centerpiece is how to make people understand that idea is only 10-20% of the whole needle movement of the business. There's a lot of steps that you need to go through, and that's where innovation becomes interesting. Look at what the World Economic Forum says. I've just put the top 5 because it's small letters in big letters. World Economic Forum's future skills also says the same thing. You got to have these skills. There is no Python, there is no Cobra, there is no AI here. It's all how do you solve complex problems. Not even problem solving, complex problem solving. Because the technologies that are changing so fast, so many at the same time, is making it extremely difficult. There is no domain which is, a single domain, product, service, etc. now. Everything is, if you ask somebody from the automotive world, earlier ICE engine cars used to have 2000 moving parts. An electric vehicle has 20 moving parts and 200 million lines of code. So the mechanical guys will say it's a wheels with software, and the software guys with the software with wheels. So that is the kind of diffusion that has happened with respect to tech. The good news is internal innovation, a source of internal innovation is your advantage. Many researchers have told close to 60+% of people who can innovate are actually inside your company. I use the word who can innovate, not who will innovate. Do you want the bad news? Of course. Like I said, connecting to business is not automatic. Connecting to business is a very different kind of breed of people, and that is only about 4% of the people. Only 4% of the people are able to do that in an organization. This is a survey we have done for Indian market, especially in the technology centers. Now the 96% can innovate, but they are not innovating. That's the point I'm trying to make. So this is what I'm trying to say. This is such a big problem that where I work with a lot of startups as well. About 95% of the startups failed, said the 2018 IBM study in Bangalore. And I do this with different parts of the world. This number is slightly less in some countries, but it's not significantly different. Number one reason, they build what nobody wants. This is a very solvable problem. This is a very solvable problem. There are other two reasons, but the most important one is this. Now, why do they? Because there is no connection to business. I can do is the approach taken here, not what I should do, the approach taken here. This is a kind of a wake-up call for something. Literally a wake-up call, maybe. This is a very short clip, right? So let me see. I like this for the attitude of the kid. He has no clue why he is clapping. But if you just see part 2, he is clapping. He is part of the story. I always joke when I give keynotes that this is also the same with Gen AI today. If you don't say AI, you're not cool. So you got to say AI somehow, somewhere in your sentence, even if it doesn't fit. So every now and then put one AI in the word, then you're cool. Okay. So the key takeaway for me is it is time to make people the center of innovation, not the process, not anything else that we are talking about. The people part is they will find ways to innovate. They will find ways to make things to happen. And this is where the focus has to shift if your future organization has to be driven by innovation as well. Now, culture is a big word, but let me break it down. It's not a one big thing. It's a series of small things. Okay, if you call for a meeting at 2 p.m. and there are 27 people to attend it, if 5 come on time and 22 doesn't come on time, if nothing happens, 27 doesn't come on time next time. So that becomes the culture of the organization. So what is the desired behavior you want, especially when it is innovation? And if you want a desired behavior, either you incentivize it. If you do this, you will do more of something you get. It's not only money. At the same time, penalty for not doing something. You don't have to choose both. You can choose both. You can choose either, depending on your culture of your organization. It should be in line with your culture. What do you do with people who innovate? I asked this question to many CTOs. Many CTOs, I have asked this question. What happens if I innovate? What happens if I don't innovate? If the answer is nothing to both, nothing happens. It's very simple. It's human logic. Think about it. You cannot blame people for that, right? So it's our responsibility to put this, and that's why this, I don't know if it's a real conversation that happened or a mythical one. The CFO asked the CEO, what happens if we spend so much in developing our people, making them innovators, and then they leave us? And what does he say? What happens if we don't and they stay? This is your future, you got to decide. This is the future that you want to pick, whichever you want to pick. And the whole difference will come what you want to do in your organization as such. Okay? Now the present versus future focus is all about what is not right or what is not wrong. It's about what is useful. Remember, usefulness is always to whom is it useful. That's the context you need to have with your customer, the conversations, the discussion that you have with your business. Where does it go? World has a lot of problems. In that there are some problems which are relevant to what you do, your business, your line of thinking. But the ones you select will make you different than the others. If you are the organization who pick the right problems to solve, these are the skills that you don't get automatically. Okay? Quick check. How do I count the number of people in this room? Anybody can tell me how to count number of people in this room? Number of tables into chairs. Okay? Any other way? Raise of hands. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, fair enough. Ask the registration desk. 4. Yeah, exactly. Roughly okay, kind of. The point is, none of you asked, why should I count the number of people in the room? That's a small, but the whole different. If you leave the Chennai port going to Singapore and you're off by 2 degrees, you will be in Australia, not in Singapore. That's all you need to do. Wrong. That's what the CEO of Nokia, I don't know what we did wrong. That's the only thing. So the why is a super important question that we should have, because problems can be, opportunities can be in the present or in the future. Both are possible for you to address. If you want a future-centric organization, I'll show it to you in the next slide. What is the thing that you need to build? Because in the scenario of a present problem, there is information for you to analyze. Suppose there is 170,000 deaths on Indian roads. There is data available for you to analyze. But if you say, what are the deaths that can come because of autonomous vehicles in 2037, there is no data, because it may not happen also. There is a trend only to help you do that. So the whole idea is, remember, this slide is one of the most important things for your future template. X-axis has known problems, known needs, or new needs and new problems. Y-axis has new solutions and known solutions. We are all good in this box. We don't need any discussion. You're all super successful people. That's why you are here attending this conference, to know what else can you do. Zone 1 is known problem, new solution. New way of thinking, new way of solving the same problem. Zone 2 is your first step into the future. New problems. First find new problem that can happen in the future. Zone 3, new problem and new solution. Your game is on. If you have a ratio of this in your portfolio, I think you're all set. You're super set to become successful. Is it easy? Of course not. That's why they need people like you. If it was easy, everybody would do this. The reason here is, the right side is risk reward is high. High risk, high reward. Left side, too much of competition. Not that there is no reward. There is. But competition is too high because many people attempt it. Most people don't. Intercepting a future problem is always harder. Okay? That's why you need to look not only inside like we saw, but also outside as an external innovation. What do? You have to work with different kinds of people. Your current partners can also be your innovation partners. Many a times I urge you to focus on this. Ask your current partners, what new are you doing? Can we do that together? If Audi and Michelin works, they got a new product much faster than Michelin only works on tires, right? At the same time, you can work with academia or startups which fits into your thing, but you should have a process to get this done. This process is very different than your regular process. Your regular process, there is a process to raise a PO. And I know the pain of going through that process. That will not work with the external innovation process, because the focus should be medium long term, and there should be a clear area where you want to work with them. So this will give you the speed of innovation, especially in the future, because those startups are looking at new problems that you may have not looked at. So if the problem is new or you have identified, the solution could also be relevant for you. So teams are super important. Now we talked about technology, we talked about process. When you look at people, three kinds of people are needed in innovation: thinkers, doers, and connectors. Thinkers are, they think a lot and come up with something interesting. Doers are, they implement POC, they do changes, they can get hands-on, real. They convert that thought into reality. Connectors are even more interesting people. They know how to bring technology and business together. Remember the 4%? They have a strength in that area. Don't have teams of the same kind of people. One of the mistakes I see in organizations is they have a good project team, they make them into innovation team. I say you have two problems. You lost a good project team, you have a bad innovation team, because they are all the same. They know how to, they are like, guided missiles. Wherever you put them, they come back to the mainstay. And when you come back, you going to hit the target. But in innovation, you don't want a target, you want to create a new target. So the whole idea here is mix them up in such a way that you get a mix of all three types. This is work for you in the future. You got to observe people. They will not tell, I'm a thinker, oh, I'm a doer. No, they have no clue. You got to make those choices by observing them. When you give them assignments, have this hidden agenda to see what do they do well. Then mark them accordingly. That is the design of your team that you get. Few things to close. It is not about right or wrong. It's about useful. Also to whom. Now this is super important. Oh, everybody will buy my shampoo? No. That's why there are 7 kinds of mosquito repellents, right? Band is there, cream is there, electric is there, machar coil is there, so on, because everything has a different customer. Second thing, innovation opportunity leads to a novel solution. That novel solution creates an impact, and the integrate creates a user benefit. Then money starts to tinker. The money is only in the last step. Don't expect money in any of these steps. Okay? I buy a glucometer not because you made a glucometer, because I want to measure my sugar levels. So that is a benefit I pay for your machine, not because you made a super interesting patch for my glucose measurement. Okay? At the same time, you also look at how the flow is. What is the problem should we solve? Count the number of people in the room. How should we solve it? Da, 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 da. Did it get innovation? No. Your value addition is why should we solve this? This is the only question I almost request you to practice like a muscle memory. The question should come. You may do whatever you are doing, but it should pass this filter. Every single time it should pass this filter. For those of you seen movie buffs, 3 Idiots, pen leakage is the problem. All the solutions centered around fixing that. But pencil comes up because somebody, why pen? That's the only thing. It's not a brilliant answer. It was a brilliant question to ask at the beginning. So to establish context, remember these 2 questions that I was ripped apart. Why and so what? You don't have to have any clue about the idea, because I sit in all sorts of juries, from life sciences to medical domain to fintech to all sorts of things. These 2 questions are your friends. They can analyze any innovation, any proposal to any kind of level that you want. X-axis is novelty. What is new? Y-axis is utility. What is useful? You can have a low novel thing, okay? But you should not have a low utility thing. Set a threshold. Don't get excited about new. Induction control cooktop with a phone. It's new, but utility was terrible. So if you compromise on novelty. Remember the 95% of the patents, they're all just that. Discourage this habit of people coming, sir, I have an idea. Yeah, I don't discuss ideas, I discuss problems. Then we discuss solutions. First, let us check if it's a problem even worth solving. Okay? Now, this sets up your culture that we talked about, has 2 elements. Culture in reality at your level, at a very senior level like yours, has 2 elements. How do you decide? Okay? And how do you act? These are the 2 things that will set your culture. If I go to this person, I know this is what I can predict will happen. She will ask me this, and based on that she'll ask me, if I ask her, she'll tell me this to do. That's your decision making process. That's your culture. That's your ISP, individual selling point. These 2 also becomes your culture. This is also called walk the talk sometimes. So you tell big things in the town hall. I say we support innovation, we encourage ideas. Please come and talk to us. And then I meet that person in the coffee break. Sir, I have an idea. Can we meet later? You're done. All the town hall inspiration is just diluted in one shot. So look at also your IP strategy if you don't have one. IP strategy is super important, and it ranges between trade secrets, copyrights, trademarks, and of course patents. You don't have to have patents all the time. You can have many other things, including trade secrets. Coca-Cola doesn't tell anybody how they do Coca-Cola. That's a trade secret. If you put a patent application, everybody knows how you do that. So there are pluses and minuses for both. But you got to make sure that which one suits you. Hire a good IP person if you don't have one, like I said, but have a good IP strategy as well. All innovation need not be patents. Patent is not a validation of innovation. Many patents are never used in real world. The 108 patents to kill a rat, probably only 5 are used. Okay, so this intersection is interesting. The blue thing is more interesting. This is where money is actually coming from. Quick look at this picture. You may don't notice also what's wrong with this. Yeah, sometimes it's difficult to know which is actually the original. Bilseri and Bisleri are pretty close. Charlie Chaplin got 3rd prize in a Charlie Chaplin lookalike contest. So things can be so close to your own product that it will be very difficult to find out what is the actual original one. So for me, summary is people. You got to focus on people. Help them become innovators. They have the potential, but they don't have the skill, and they're two different things. Your job is to make them skillful. They will hence create the context because they know their work. They meet people that you don't meet. They work with people you don't work on a daily basis. That will create opportunities. Using that, they will see opportunities, and with that opportunities, they will come up with good solutions. Then your job is to prioritize, support that solution, which will lead to partnerships. Maybe you will say, oh, for this, let's go to XYZ company. Oh, that startup is having something. I was working with a startup. Actually, I was not working with a startup. I was just talking to a startup several years ago when I was in Volvo. And he said, Koushik, I do track lettuce. And if you take a burger in a McDonald's cafe, and if you give me, I'll tell you where this lettuce came from. I said, we don't do anything to do with lettuce in Volvo. So I was thinking what to do. So the point was, I said, can you replace lettuce with battery? He said, of course, it doesn't matter to me. Just give me something that you want to track, I'll track it. So that became a battery passport opportunity for me. So partnership also don't exist waiting for you. You got to create those partnership. You got to meet in between, create those as well. And the last one that brings is process is the last piece you need, not the first piece. The moment you put process, it's like a threshold. It's a barrier for people to think. Okay. So this is what I would say as a summary. But what puts these together is your culture. Your culture is what you can. Culture is what? Think about it. People go to somebody in Indian house. Typically, culture is you go to somebody's house. They say, "Do you want water? Do you want food? Do you want Wi-Fi password?" Those are the things that have come to now. So culture is what happens in a house consistently. You can expect this will happen in that house. You can expect this to happen in your company as well. So culture is what keeps everything as a glue together as well. So this was my last slide, but also remember that it's not an innovation is not an exact science or an art. Lot of emotions. The longer people work with their idea, it becomes their baby. They'll fight with you. They'll behind your back, they'll curse you. I think one day if I get a chance, so I have experienced it. It's not ill-intended. It's their attachment to an idea that they're not, getting through this. So emotions have to be managed in this whole process as well. For that, you need to help them. Help them make decisions. Don't make decisions for them. Help them take risks. Support them. Taking risk is not making them take risk and bear the brunt of the failure as well. Help in both. Help in effort. Help in outcome. That's your job. That's where you will also learn. We will also learn every time how to take better risks as well. So thank you so much for listening to me. This is my coordinates, my WhatsApp, my LinkedIn, my email in case you have questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Let's have a huge round of applause for Dr. Koushik. An absolutely brilliant presentation, sir. May I request you to please take the center stage, and we'd love to felicitate you with a memento. May I please invite Mr. Kali Mahapatra, head at INFOCOM, to join us and felicitate Dr. Sudeendra Koushik with a memento, a token of appreciation. Well, I must say, definitely innovation is indeed a strategy to cope with change, and it's time to make people the center of innovation. That's the biggest takeaway we will take from that presentation. Let's have a round of applause one more time. Thank you so much.